murdered by Israeli forces. A Palestinian teenager who was repeatedly shot by Israeli forces at a checkpoint in the occupied West Bank has died. According to an Israeli army spokesman cited by the Associated Press, Hadil al-Hashleman had attempted to stab a soldier, resulting in the soldier firing live ammunition at her lower extremities. Images taken by an anonymous European activist of the 19-year-old being confronted by armed soldiers at the checkpoint shortly before she was shot. Graphic pictures not shown in this video out of respect show al-Hashleman lying on the ground, bleeding. Eyewitness Fuat Abu Aisha said al-Hashleman was opening her bag for inspection when the soldier began shouting at her in Hebrew to stop. Abu Aisha, who also appeared in the photographs, said, "She was like a nail, she was in shock. I was shouting. She doesn't understand Hebrew. Even if she had a knife, she would have to leap over a barrier about a meter high to reach a soldier. There were 6 or 7 soldiers with heavy weapons. There was no need for this assassination. She was trying to show him what was inside her bag, but the soldier shot her once, and then shot her again." The army said al-Hashleman was taken to an Israeli hospital in critical condition, but local media claims the teenager was left bleeding on the ground for up to 30 minutes before soldiers allowed doctors to reach her. Video shows her being pulled roughly out of the frame of the camera, her scarf coming off as her head drags on the ground. Israeli settlers and soldiers can be seen standing around, and in some cases smiling and laughing in the background. Al-Hashleman died in hospital of her injuries. Murdered by Israeli forces.
There is a huge gap between us Jews and our enemies, not just in ability, but in morality, culture, sanctity of life and conscience. They are our neighbors here, but it seems as if at a distance of a few hundred meters away, there are people who do not belong to our continent, to our world, but actually belong to a different galaxy. Israeli President Moshe Katsav, the Jerusalem Post, May the 10th, 2001. The Palestinians are like crocodiles. The more you give them meat, they want more. Ehud Barak, Prime Minister of Israel at the time, August 28, 2000, reported in the Jerusalem Post, August 30, 2000. The Palestinians are beasts, walking on 2 legs. Menachem Begin, speech to the Knesset, quoted in Amnon Kapeliuk. New Statesman, 25th of June 1982. The Palestinians should be crushed like grasshoppers, heads smashed against the boulders and walls. Israeli Prime Minister at the time, in a speech to Jewish settlers, New York Times, April 1st, 1988. When we have settled the land, all the Arabs will be able to do about it is to scurry around like drug cockroaches in a bottle. Raphael Eitan, Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, New York Times, 14th April 1983. How can we return the occupied territories? There is nobody to return them to. Golda Meir, March the 8th, 1969. There is no such thing as Palestinians. They never existed. Golda Meir, Israeli Prime Minister, June 15th, 1969. The thesis of the danger of genocide was hanging over us in June 1967, and that Israel was fighting for its physical existence is only bluff, which was born and developed after the war. Israeli General Matityahu Peled reported in Haaretz, 19th of March 1972. Ben-Gurion warns in 1948, "We must do everything to ensure the Palestinians never do return," assuring his fellow Zionists that Palestinians will never come back to their homes. From "the old will die and the young will forget." We have to kill all the Palestinians unless they are resigned to live here as slaves. Chairman Heilbron of the Committee for the Re-election of General Shlomo Lahat, the mayor of Tel Aviv, October 1983. Every time we do something, you tell me America will do this and will do that. I want to tell you something very clear. Don't worry about the American pressure on Israel. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, October 3rd, 2001, to Shimon Peres, as reported on Kol Yisrael Radio. We declare openly that the Arabs have no right to settle on even 1 centimeter of Eretz Israel. Force is all they do or ever will understand. We shall use the ultimate force until the Palestinians come crawling to us on all fours. Rafael Eitan, Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, Gad Becker, Yediot Achronot, 13 April 1983, and the New York Times, 14 April 1983. We must use terror, assassination, intimidation, land confiscation, and the cutting of all social services to rid the Galilee of its Arab population. Israel Kunig, the Kunig Memorandum. Jewish villages were built in the place of Arab villages. You do not even know the names of these Arab villages. I do not blame you because geography books no longer exist. Not only do the books not exist, the Arab villages are not there either. Nalal arose in the place of Malul, Kibbutz Gvat in the place of Jipta, Kibbutz Sarit in the place of Hunefis, and Kefar Yeshua in the place of Tal al-Shuman. There is not a single place built in this country that did not have a former Arab population. Moshe Dayan, addressed to the Technikon, Haifa, reported in Haaretz, April 4th, 1969. We walked outside, Ben-Gurion accompanying us. Alon repeated his question, what to be done with the Palestinian population? Ben-Gurion waved his hand in a gesture which said, drive them out. Yitzhak Rabin leaked a censored version of Rabin memoirs published in the New York Times, 23 October 1979. Rabin's description of the conquest of Lydda after the completion of Plan Dalet. We shall reduce the Arab population to a community of woodcutters and waiters. Yuri Lubrani, PM Ben-Gurion's special advisor on Arab affairs in 1960, from The Arabs in Israel by Sabri Girias. Everybody has to move, run, and grab as many hilltops as they can to enlarge the settlements, because everything we take now will stay ours. Everything we don't grab will go to them. Ariel Sharon, Israeli foreign minister, addressing a meeting of militants from the extreme right-wing Tzommet party. Agence France Presse, November 15th, 1998. It is the duty of Israeli leaders to explain to public opinion clearly and courageously a certain number of facts that are forgotten with time. The first of these is that there is no Zionism, colonization, or Jewish state without the eviction of the Arabs and the expropriation of their lands. Yoram Bar Porath, Yediot Achronot of 14 July 1972. Spirit the penniless population across the frontier by denying it employment. Both the process of expropriation and the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly and circumspectly. Theodor Herzl, founder of the World Zionist Organization, speaking of the Arabs of Palestine, Complete Diaries, June 12, 1985 entry. 1 million Arabs are not worth a single Jewish fingernail. Rabbi Yaakov Perrin, February the 27th, 1994. From the New York Times, February 28th, 1994, page 1. We Jews are the destroyers and will remain the destroyers. Nothing you can do will meet our demands and needs. We will forever destroy because we want a world of our own. You Gentiles, by Jewish author Maurice Samuels, page 155. We will have a world government whether you like it or not. The only question is whether that government will be achieved by conquest or consent. Jewish banker Paul Warburg, February the 17th, 1950, as he testified before the U.S. Senate. We will establish ourselves in Palestine whether you like it or not. You can hasten our arrival, or you can equally retard it. It is, however, better for you to help us so as to avoid our constructive powers that turned into a destructive power which will overthrow the world. Chaim Weizmann, published in Jüdische Rundschau, number 4, 1920. Our race is the master race. We are divine gods on this planet. We are as different from the inferior races as they are from insects. In fact, compared to our race, other races are beasts and animals, cattle at best. Other races are considered as human excrement. Our destiny is to rule over the inferior races. Our earthly kingdom will be ruled by our leader with a rod of iron. The masses will lick our feet and serve us as our slaves. Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, in a speech to the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, quoted by Amnon Kapeliuk, Begin and the Beasts, New Statesman, June 25, 1982. Tell me, do the evil men of this world have a bad time? They hunt and catch whatever they feel like eating. They don't suffer from indigestion and are not punished by heaven. I want Israel to join that club. Maybe the world will then at last begin to fear us instead of feeling sorry. Maybe they will start to tremble, to fear our madness instead of admiring our nobility. Let them tremble. Let them call us a mad state. Let them understand that we are a savage country, dangerous to our surroundings, not normal, that we might go wild, that we might start World War III just like that, or that we might one day go crazy and burn all the oil fields in the Middle East. Even if you'll prove to me that the present war is a dirty, immoral war, I don't care. We shall start another war, kill and destroy more and more. And do you know why it's all worth it? Because it seems that this war has made us more unpopular among the uncivilized world. We'll hear no more of that nonsense about the unique Jewish morality. No more talk about a unique people being a light upon the nations. No more uniqueness and no more sweetness and light. Good riddance. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. The modern age is the Jewish age, and the 20th century in particular is the Jewish century. Yuri Slezkin, professor of history at University of California, Berkeley, The Jewish Century, Princeton University Press. What shocks and worries me is the narrow-mindedness and short-sightedness of our military leaders. They seem to presume that the state of Israel may, or even must, behave in the realm of international relations according to the laws of the jungle, the long chain of false incidents and hostilities we have invented, and so many clashes we have provoked. From the diary of Moshe Sharet, former Prime Minister of Israel in Livia Rokash, Israel's Sacred Terrorism, published 1980.
It's the nuclearproctologist.org, and we are bringing you a sad update on Israel and Gaza war. An Israel sniper has come out on Instagram and bragged about killing 13 children. with his rifle. 13 children. I'll play that clip for you.
The Israeli sniper has admitted to murdering 13 Gaza children in one day. Posting on an Instagram account of a Palestinian, David Ovadia has released a photo of himself holding a sniper rifle, but the image with his post was deleted entirely by anonymous hackers who said they removed it for, quote, good measure. The move was reportedly...
Good measure? They should fought to keep it there. Here's Morton, a Jewish lobbyist, Zionist, and he's up on Breaking the Set with Abby. And you got to hear this.
To also present the Zionist perspective. And that's why today I'm featuring a debate between Morton Klein, president of the Zionist Organization of America, and Max Blumenthal, journalist and author of Goliath.
Mr. Blumenthal, all you do is lie and lie and lie. He's lying about Israel targeting civilians, targeting hospitals.
Well, what's that? 13 and brag about it. Brag about it. Here's another guy who brags about exterminating the Palestinians. Remember, it's 5 million refugees because of this attitude and this hubris that these people have, that they're God's chosen ones, and it's okay to kill 13 children and post about it on Facebook. That's why they're murdering everybody in Gaza. Listen to this guy. This a few days ago.
I can't help but think that when Hashem told us as a nation, when Joshua went in there, you know, that we were to wipe out all the inhabitants, because this is what we would face if we don't. And we're seeing that. You know, the Jewish people are seeing that. And I know the world looks at that as, you know, we're inhumane in the process that Israel has to go about. But it must be done. And let me just really encourage another issue.
This is what he's talking about. Every rocket Hamas, who was created by Israel to overthrow Arafat and then used to demonize the Palestinian, ever fired at Israel, could not do all of this. And this is dirty bombs they fired, depleted uranium rounds, 155mm. Here's another one for you. 49 bases around Iran, and Iran is a threat. The 49 bases around Iran are carrying out electronic warfare and embargoes and sanctions and terror. That's terror when you block them off with like that. Israel says they want peace, and rest in peace Palestine. And what they done was they use it for their weapons, because they're the fourth biggest weapons producer on the planet, and the newest one now is the directed energy weapon. And these are bombs around me. Look at them. You know, look at that, right? Debris and dirt and buildings and bodies and everything flying all over the place. That's targeted? That's targeted? That's like getting a tunnel or getting a bomb shelter that Hamas got. You blow up the entire neighborhood. Then you use directed energy weapons. It's directed energy weapons. And you got the Americans tortured. They got to give you all that money so you can put 49 American bases there and stock it with Israeli weapons, right? That's exactly what's going on. You know and I know it. And here's another one for you. If I can find it. Israel spent $2 million, along with the Americans, $200 million, on directed energy weapon research. There it is there. And here it is here. Look at the projection for now, and look at what they're doing right now in Gaza. And then you got the headlines of soldiers going up on social networking and bragging. Thrilled. Not the least bit worried. Put it right up on social networking because of the ideology.
As you guys listen to Sister Amy, she tweets out of Israel, and I help but think that when...
Right. And they're, like he was saying, let me go back to him for 1 second.
Hashem told us as a nation, when Joshua went in there, you know, that we were to wipe out all the inhabitants, because this is what we would face.
They wipe out all the inhabitants. Wipe them out. Like, what you got done there is just unimaginable, man. It's not even reasonable. Every rocket Hamas got couldn't do that. 10,000 Hamas and, what is it, 5 million in refugee camps. And then all the land is gone. They got a little tiny strip there, right? See the little strip there? They took another 25 miles out of that 125 miles a day. And, you know, the before and after. The before and after, rather. And one more for you. Every rocket that Hamas has ever fired and will ever fire couldn't do any of that. And all Israel can do is flatten Gaza. They can't kill Hamas because they created it. They need them to demonize the 7 million people. That's why they got 5 million in refugee camps. There's no Israeli in refugee camps. And now you got soldiers going up on the internet and bragging that they're the shit. They killed 13 children. What did they do to him? What could they do? They'll grow up and be their enemies because 5 million of them are in refugee camps. Their friends, their families, their loved ones. The rest are in Israeli prisons. Because that's what Israel does. It does not care. And like what Buddy said,
if we don't, and we're seeing that, you know, the Jewish people are seeing that, and I know the world looks at that as, you know, we're inhumane in the process that Israel has to go about,
the process it goes about. 7 million in refugee camps, 49 bases around Iran, but Iran is the threat, using directed energy weapons and depleted uranium rounds, 155mm with 900-foot kill ratio. And then you're doing that again to cover up the signature of your directed energy weapons, but only after you get in there and survey the carnage so you can use it to sell your product. You're the fourth biggest producer of misery on the planet, and you're so good at it that your soldiers don't even care. They get up and brag on Instagram. You're an abomination, man. You're an absolute embarrassment to all life on earth. That's literally the fact.